Joe Spataro. It's an honor to be here today, joined by some wonderful guests, some award recipients with their families. Every year we hold this ceremony during National Crime Victims' Rights Week because it's a good time for us to highlight the amazing work that law enforcement and our victim advocates do to help crime victims recover. Before we move into the ceremonies, I'd like to welcome the following dignitaries that have joined us this afternoon. First, Florida Highway Patrol Colonel Gary Howes, Senator Blaise Ignolia, Representative Jeff Holcomb, Representative Robbie Brackett, Sheriff Al Nienhuis with Hernando County, State Attorney Bill Gladson of the 5th Judicial Circuit, Chief Butler of Indian Harbor Beach, Director of Patrol from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Joe Cowan, Major Bianca Joseph with the Miami Police Department, Commander George Harrigan with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, Commissioner Mark Glass with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, with Deputy Commissioners Matt Walsh and Vaden Pollard, our friends from FPCA and FSA, Executive Directors Jennifer Pritt and Matt Dunnigan, and Commanders Cayenne and Dowling with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Would the FDLE Capitol Police Joint Honor Guard now present the colors? Colonel Howes is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you to the Honor Guard. If you can remain standing, please. Leon County Sheriff's Office Chaplain Gene Strickland is now going to provide the invocation.
In almost 70 years of living, I've never met a person who said that their biggest desire was to become a crime victim. That's really what they wanted to be in life. I've had a lot of people tell me they wanted to be cowboys, they wanted to be astronauts, they wanted to be doctors, ballerinas, you name it. They've told me that, but never a crime victim. But we find that nobody's immune. Many of those people who told me that as I was growing up, they became victims of crime and we lost them. Friends I won't see again until heaven. Co-workers when I was with the sheriff's office. And even some of the priests I became. Let us pray. Lord, we know this world is not the way you created it to be. And often we find the people are not the way they were created to be. But we thank you. We thank you for the leaders of this state and for our local communities, our law enforcement agencies, who provide all of the resources, especially the advocates for these victims, who are there with them at their time of grief and continue to stay with them in that grief. May they never grow tired of doing good and the impact that they are making in these lives as they seek to restore them to as much wholeness as possible. For the glory of God, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Have a seat, everyone. Every year, the Florida Attorney General's office distributes more than $12 million directly to victims to compensate them for the harm they suffer as a result of crimes. Our office puts on trainings across the state to help victim advocates provide the best services anywhere in the country. We also handle the distribution of tens of millions of dollars to victim service providers, and all that is possible because of the hard work and direction of our Attorney General. He never loses focus on the mission of victim assistance. So without further ado, I am proud to introduce our Attorney General, James Uthmeier, who is a strong advocate for the rights of crime victims. General?
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Today is a special day, an important day. To endure some of these losses is something that, words cannot describe. You can't relate to it unless you've lived it. And I cannot thank enough the victims' advocates, our law enforcement officials that help and are there and comfort and provide a listening ear and a warm hug to victims and their family members. This is meaningful work. It changes lives. And I want to thank, the victims' family members that are here today that share their stories and have to live these painful experiences over and over again. I know that is not easy. Many people cannot do it, but you being here and doing it is so important. It really is. I've got a friend, he's a leader in state government. I won't name his name, but he's pretty smart, or at least he talks as if he is. And everybody's always asking him, are you a lawyer? And he says, no, I'm a Christian. I take a little offense to that. I'm a Christian and a lawyer. And so I try very hard to forgive. And I certainly pray for the people that commit these heinous offenses all the time. But I do not forget. If you know anything about me, I'm going to be as tough on crime as you can be as an attorney general. You have my word there. I think there are evil people in this world. They're dangerous. And I want to make sure they stay away from the innocent people of our state for as long as possible. I enjoyed this morning getting to meet with Ms. Ivy Scriven and Marilyn Gifford. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your testimony, what you're doing. It means a lot. We're going to talk more, but thank you. And I want to thank all of our award winners for being here. Thanks for the service you provide. Thanks for the comfort you provide. Thanks for working day in and day out to promote rule of law and continue to comfort our victims and tell the stories of the people that have suffered great pain. So with that, we'll make some awards and recognize the great work of many of our law enforcement officers and victims advocates. Thanks for the work you do. I should also say thank you, Kirsten, for coming. I got to see her a couple weeks ago. I know she's going to speak in a minute, but Kirsten lost the love of her life, horrific, tragic incident. And I remember telling her back a couple weeks ago, going through that, I would probably crawl into a closet in the fetal position and have trouble coming out for a long time. What Kirsten's been able to do following that tragedy to promote good and do something very meaningful is just, it's so courageous, it's strong, and I've got the utmost admiration for it. She's been putting these boxes together. Her daughter was 2 years old when her daughter witnessed the murder of her husband on the side of the road, and her daughter got to the police station. Nobody really had any toys or blankets or teddy bears or anything that could provide some comfort. And while we know that these guys in badges are the greatest, protectors, and they're there for our kids, for a little kid, they can be kind of scary, the sirens and it's an intimidating, look, it should be. But for kids, they weren't really prepared in any of our law enforcement offices to handle kids that might come in, following a domestic fight or some other crime and suddenly be in an office for a long period of time without parents. And that happened to her daughter, and so she was inspired to put together these boxes, the Bexley boxes named after her daughter, and then work to get them in law enforcement offices all around the state. I think you're at, 67, 68, something like that? 66? Okay. But she's got my commitment. I know these guys are going to help. We got to get them in every law enforcement office in the state by the end of the year. So thank you for being here and for your, your leadership and testimony and, commitment to doing good despite suffering a serious tragedy. All right. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, General. I cannot say anything more about Kirsten better than what the General just told you before bringing her up. So, Kirsten?
Good morning. As you have already heard, Victim advocate gave me this. Thank you. It's truly an honor to stand before all of you today. You dedicate your time, your energy, and your hearts to advocating for victims and their families. You're the people that step in during life's darkest moments, the moments that we can't prepare for, and give us comfort when nothing else can really give us that comfort. So I just want to begin by saying thank you. I never imagined I would be part of this world, the world of victims and survivors. I never imagined to be standing here as a widow. And as the mother to a child who saw something she should never have had to see. But on February 16th, 2022, our lives were shattered. As you heard, my husband Jared was ambushed and killed in front of our 2-year-old daughter Bexley. One moment he was a loving father, a devoted husband, a kind and generous friend. And the next he was gone and felt like diminished into a simple news headline. In the aftermath of that unthinkable act, our daughter Bexley, who was just 2 years old at the time, was taken to a police station. She had just witnessed Jared's murder and had no understanding of what had happened or no way to process it. On top of all that, it took hours for me to be reunited with her. So she spent time with total strangers who we know are good, but she did not. In an unfamiliar place without us, without comfort, without anything that she was familiar with, or even basic necessities that a child of her age needs. The officers did their best. They truly did. They were compassionate, they were kind, they just were not equipped to handle that situation. They didn't have the right size diapers, a sippy cup, a stuffed animal, or anything to offer her a little bit of comfort during those moments without her parents. There's also no victim's advocate, and I wish there was. As a mother, the knowledge, I couldn't change anything about the murder, but the knowledge that something can be done about the child's experience when they're put in that situation kept me up at night. And I just thought about what can I do to make a difference for future children. So in late 2022, I founded the Bright Again Foundation, and we created the Bexley Box. I first shared the idea on social media, and I was flooded with input from mothers mostly, some fathers, but mostly mothers from around the world, actually, telling me, you should add this, have you thought about this? And I put all of that into one box and delivered the first box to Jacksonville Beach PD. Our mission is simple. No child should have to be in a police station alone and afraid without comfort. These boxes provide the most basic but essential items, like diapers, baby wipes, sippy cups, snacks, stuffed animals, blankets, and so many more things that just bring a small amount of comfort that makes a big difference in the eyes of a child suffering a traumatic event. You as victims advocates and as officers understand better than anyone that the ripple effects of violence go far beyond the victim themselves. It affects their family, their community, the officers and responding personnel. You also know that early intervention, even in the smallest of ways, can change the trajectory of a survivor's healing. I know that if we had had a victim's advocate from the start, things might have been a little bit easier. And I'm thankful that we've met some along the way. I've spoken with child therapists, social service workers, victims advocates, and I understand that when a child receives kindness and care in those first traumatic moments, it matters and it stays with them. We can't undo the tragedies that bring children into these situations, but we can ensure that they are met with warmth, care, and reassurance. We can change how our system supports its youngest and most vulnerable victims. We can equip law enforcement and victim advocates with the tools necessary to comfort these young victims of crime. My husband was a man who believed in kindness and in making people laugh. He believed in showing up for others and making the world a brighter place, despite a lot of trials that he went through in his life. And through the foundation, through Bexley Boxes, we carry that belief and that mission forward. So thank you for standing with me, with Bexley, and with all the children who need us. Thank you for the work that you do every single day. Sacrifices that are seen and those that are not seen. Thank you for bringing comfort, justice, and hope to victims and their families like ours. Together, we continue to make a difference, one box, one child, and one small moment of comfort at a time. Thank you.
All right, don't get mad, boss. I'm going to go off script for a second. I worked as a prosecutor for statewide for the AG's office and for the Monroe State Attorney's office for a long time. And, I watch every year the survivors come up here and speak, and it brings me back to my office. Like crying in the office with rape victims. Everybody here, like, this is why we're here. We're here because families who've lost loved ones, survivors, are strong enough to come and put their pain behind them and come to court and get deposed and get cross-examined, and they're made miserable. So we have, the state attorney from the Fifth Circuit worked his way up as a prosecutor, commanders of law enforcement all over the state. Every one of you, every advocate worked their way up, working with people like Kirsten and Ms. Scriven and Ms. Gifford. And thank you so much. This is why we do it. All right. Now I'm going to make the AG come back up here. General Uthmeier had the cabinet prepare a resolution honoring National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And so I'm going to turn it over to him one more time to present the resolution. Sir?
Yeah, thanks to Joe and his team for putting this on. Again, it's a meaningful day. So I've got the resolution to present here, signed by the governor and our Commissioner of Agriculture and myself on behalf of the cabinet. At this time, I'd like to invite, I'm going to say it wrong, is it Ronya Williams to come forward? And and I will present it to you on behalf of the City Miami Police Department's Victims Advocate Services Unit. Do a photo or something? I think it's time for you to give out some recognitions.
All right, thank you, General. The resolution recognizes and the proclamation from the governor that April 6th to 12th, 2025 is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And in honor of that, we are going to start off by recognizing some outstanding law enforcement officers from around the state, and then we're going to recognize some victim advocates from around the state. This is so much fun because everybody deals with such a different subset of Florida that we get to see how every one of you has to do, be a jack of all trades to get your job done. So our first award recipient is Detective Andrew Artiega of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I'm going to say something about all of them while they come up here with the general. Detective Artiega has been a detective in the Internet Crimes Against Children Unit for 5 years. Last year, he was the lead detective in charge of Operation Valiant Nights, a multi-agency operation targeting child predators. With half a decade of experience in the ICAC unit, he knew he needed experienced chatters, the men and women that are skilled at finding online child predators, to be successful. Detective Artiega assembled a team with agents from the FBI, FDLE, Homeland Security, Naval Criminal Investigative Services, as well as deputies from the Clay, St. John's Bay, and Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Operation Valiant Nights turned out to be the most successful operation of its kind in the history of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, netting 27 arrests. Great work, Detective. And then do we have our next award recipient is also with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Officer Sean Crocker. I apologize. Can we have Commanders Cayenne and Dowling come up real quick? Officer Crocker on November 9th of 2024 assisted with a hit and run. This hit and run involved a 6-year-old pedestrian who was hospitalized. Officer Crocker responded, went to work trying to identify the suspect. He reviewed surveillance footage from a nearby business, determined the suspect was driving a GMC Yukon Denali with aftermarket taillights from a Cadillac Escalade. Officer Crocker put on his traffic homicide hat and put his experience to good use. Working on his own time off duty, he searched law enforcement databases and identified every GMC Yukon Denali registered in Duval County, of which there are, at the time, 173. He determined 34 of them were registered to individuals matching the descriptions of the suspect from witnesses on scene, narrowed that list down and identified a suspect, and then was able to arrest a suspect who was a habitual traffic offender driving without insurance, and did all of this, 90% of the work he did on his own time, including making the arrest. Officer Crocker proved that being a police officer is not a job you clock in and clock out of, but a 24/7 calling. Thank you for everything you do, officer. If we can have Lieutenant Drool and Sheriff Nienhaus come up with our third law enforcement award recipient. It's my pleasure to recognize Detective Sergeant Sean Galarza of the Hernando County Sheriff's Office. Sergeant Galarza is the supervisor of the Special Victims Unit. I heard him say upstairs something about being moved from economic crimes and not knowing what he was doing, and so I don't feel that bad because I knew his name from being at statewide, and I saw it and went, ICAC, huh? But apparently he has a knack for all kinds of work because he was a fine detective, and now he is a excellent supervisor of Special Victims Unit work. He was an instrumental force in forming the group. He established the policies and procedures that guide the unit's critical and sensitive work. As a member of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, he's fostered close relationships with local, state, and federal agencies. Through his leadership last year, Sergeant Galarza's unit investigated 439 cyber tips that were sitting backlogged and made 47 child exploitation arrests. He's steadfast in his mission to protect children and make Hernando County safer. Thank you for your service and congratulations, Sergeant. Right. Let's turn our attention to our victim advocates, the support systems that make all of those officers we just saw able to do their job every day. Our first advocate winner is Tiffany Petro. Is your boss here? Is your boss here? Chief Butler? Oh, okay. Chief Butler is here. He did not use his seat at the front, so when I said his name earlier, I thought I was... Tiffany was nominated by the Indian Harbor Beach Police Department, but she serves both Indian Harbor Beach and Satellite Beach as a victim's advocate. In addition to supporting every crime victim for 2 police departments, she coordinates crime prevention programs, she trains officers on victim advocacy, assists officers giving death notifications to loved ones, she keeps the community informed of important issues by updating the agency's literature and social media platforms. In 2024, Tiffany assisted hundreds of victims and their families affected by sex crimes, violent crimes, domestic issues, and fraud. In an effort to prevent citizens from identity theft, she organized a shredded event where more than 1,500 pounds of documents were destroyed. From January to August last year, the Indian Harbor Beach Police responded to 40 calls for service related to a juvenile with autism and behavior issues. The juvenile who lost her mother to suicide was in the care of her grandmother. Tiffany worked with the grandmother on Social Security and guardianship issues and with DCF on proper placement, leading to a successful conclusion to a very challenging issue for the police department. She really went above and beyond. Thank you, Tiffany. So our next award goes to a team. So we have the City of Miami Police Department's Victim Advocate Services Unit. The police department's team includes Anna Rodriguez, Vita Abril, Sharon Marbury-Vester, Osmara Linares, and their supervisor, Rania Williams. We have Rania and 2 of the team here with us today. In 2024, the team processed 166 victim compensation claim applications. She secured more than $186,000 for victims of crimes. They also helped relocate 5 victims for safety reasons. Particularly challenging last year, in March of 2024, there was a devastating fire that ravaged the Temple Court Apartments in Miami. The team coordinated family reunions, worked with the Red Cross, and coordinated with local businesses to secure resources for the residents. During the incredibly challenging time this fire posed, the team successfully relocated more than 70 displaced families. Great work, team. Do we have Major Bianca? No? All right. Our final awards today go to a duo from the Coral Springs Police Department. If I could have Hilda Sagastume and Nicole Charbonnet with Sergeant Bruna, if he's here. In 2024, Hilda and Nicole provided services to 989 victims. They work with Coral Springs detectives from the Special Victims and Homicide Units. They support victims of domestic violence and other violent crimes, as well as help the families of homicide victims. Hilda and Nicole can regularly be found volunteering at community events like the summer camps in Coral Springs and toy distribution events. They work together to get important information on victim services out to the residents of Coral Springs by keeping the city's website and domestic violence brochures both informative and engaging. Hilda and Nicole regularly aid families who've lost loved ones. They respond to suicides, where they help families cope and coordinate funerals and home cleanings. They provide support to parents that have lost children. They coordinate with local schools when students are heading back to school after tragedy. Thank you both for your commitment to your community. Thank you, General. One more round of applause for the winners and speakers today. So for our annual attendees, I hope you all enjoyed being back in the beautifully renovated cabinet room. Thank you all for attending. To the winners, their families. General, thank you so much for continuing your commitment to victims' rights and allowing us to move forward and host this event. That concludes today's ceremony. Thank you all and have a great day.